Alright, a very warm welcome back everyone. Today we want to talk about the routing within one channel. We've talked about routing in the past already, so just to remind you of this, we have the channel settings here and we can we can show the direct routing and the signal path in of for one particular channel here, and we can see where our signals are routed to. In this case we have them routed to the stereo outbus because of course, the loop routes to stereo outbus, but if we change this now, we see that there are different channels coming in the signal path here. In the direct routing section, we always see where the next point in this signal path is, and this is the one way the routing works. So basically for different channels. But today we want to talk about how routing works in one particular channel, and to do this, I've loaded up a loop here. However, the loop is a little bit loud, and we'll talk about this routing procedure here in terms of loudness, or in terms of perceived loudness by Cubase itself. So the problem we have here is I have to regulate all the time, not to make the sounds too loud for you, but the metering section that we are going to look at will always have a different perspective on this loudness level. So just keep in mind that even though the values may be different in what we are going to look at in just a second, you may not be able to hear them differently in this situation. So what we are going to do now is, first I'm going to bring up the statistics for this particular loop, and you can see that we have like this normalization procedure here, like for some European stats. We have a maximum loudness level of 0.64 decibels. So if we are not talking about the analog domain, this would certainly be clipping in the digital domain, and we have a integrated loudness of -8.1 lufs, which is quite much already. So I have now the settings here that we have like the channel at -12.2 decibels, and we have the control room at -8 decibels. So what we are roughly going to look at is basically -28 decibels of gain, but we'll talk about this in just a second. So I'm just playing this back for you now, so you have some sort of reference, right? This is what's going on, and now we want to again talk about the loudness here, and the way I'm doing this is by taking the supervision plugin, which looks like this, and then I'm going to put this into loudness mode. So what we see now here is basically we have like the loudness, a loudness part that we also can see here in the metering section, which tells us what the true peak is, what the integrated loudness is, what the short-term loudness is, and what the momentary max is. If you look at one of these numbers, you can freely actuate between those, but if you want to compare them, you perhaps should look at one particular one. In this case, I would talk about the integrated loudness, so the green one here. And if I'm now playing back the signal again, what we should see is basically what the statistics also already told us, namely that we have -8.1 LUFS in loudness, right? Yeah, this sounds about right, and we also see the true peak of plus 0.64 decibels. So in this case, the statistics have not been lying to us, and what we want to do now is see what changes when we put this supervision plugin in different places in the channel settings, and this will then give us the opportunity to look at the signal path in general. And this is why I'm doing this with the loudness here. So first thing. There is the first thing, supervision is now loaded as a pre-fader insert, which means the signal that we are getting here will not be put into the fader before we see what actually is going on here. So the -8 LUFS that we've seen is actually not the loudness that we would be that we would actually expect, because I told you just a few seconds ago that we would expect -28 LUFS just because of the control room and all of this stuff here. Now, if I'm moving the supervision plug into the post fader position, like here, we see, so this here, supervision post fader, I'm going to move this up here, so we basically do not have this whole session all open. And we now look at the supervision plugin again, and I'm bringing this up here. you see that we have a different measurement for the integrated loudness, although I did not choose, I did not do anything different for the loudness levels here and here, right? So we still have the 12 decibels, minus 12 decibels and minus 8 decibels. So it depends on where you load this insert, what Cubase will actually tell you for the loudness. In this case, minus 20 LUFS. Now you can also, so if we move this to the pre-fader position again, we see our minus 8, right? Now the question is, when do these inserts actually are introduced in terms of the signal flow? And the answer is basically they are introduced after the pre-session, after the pre-fader session, and after you have changed your audio material here. So if I'm now lowering this for, let's say, 5 decibels, I mean, roundabout, it does not have to be exactly like this. We should see that if I'm now playing this back, we should reach minus 13 LUFS, because I've lowered here minus 5 decibels, right? Again, it does not have to be completely accurate, but just for the sake of this demonstration here. I can also additionally put some reduce the sound here in the pre-section as well. So if I'm now adding minus 5 decibels here, we should see something in the region of minus 18 to minus 19 LUFS as well, if I'm now playing this back again. All right, so what this means is that the inserts, the pre-fader inserts, are executed after you have executed what you've changed on your track, and after you've gone through the pre-section. And then after that, we of course go through the fader, and then we go through the post-fader section. So what this means for us is, if I'm now opening up the channel settings again, and maybe also get rid of everything that we've done so far, so put everything back to level, back to 0, right there. What we see now is basically the signal flow that we are going to find in each of these tracks. So the first thing that happens is you have, again, as I told before, you have the reduction or the enhancement in the audio file itself. Then you have the pre-fader section, which you can see down here, and also the equalizing session here. Then you have your inserts, in this case the pre-fader inserts. Then you have your fader, in this case this one, only this one, no other fader here, only this one. Then you have the post-fader inserts, which would be those, the orange ones. And after that, everything has been done for this channel, and you are routed out to master, and in this case the other channels as well, right? So this is how you can understand this, and maybe I'm showing you this on a bigger screen here as well. So you have like your audio material is coming in the pre-section, then you have some things going on here, phase shift, gain reduction, or gain enhancement, whatever you have. Then you have your pre-fader inserts, then you have your fader as well, and then after that you get to the post-fader inserts, and after that you'll route out of this channel. Now the question now is there any option for us to see or to hear what's happening in between? So after, basically between the pre-fader section and the after fader section here. And if you're using Cubase Pro, there actually is one such way. If I'm now going back to the control room here, in the settings here, you see that we have a listen section activated. In this case, it's put to after fader listening. And what this means is, if I'm opening this here, we can also see this here. What this means is that we listen to the sound after it has been through all of these faders, right? So the problem here is I have to activate the listen section. If we listen back to this again, what we hear is there is no difference if I'm activating the listening section and if I'm not activating it. And this is actually a good thing, because this means that everything we do is actually comparable to what we would see if we did not have these faders at all. So what the first thing I can do with this listen section is basically adjust the listen, the listen volume. And what this means is, if I'm now deactivating the listening, you hear that the sound is normal as we would expect. If I'm activating the listening section now, you hear that the sound is a little bit quieter, right? And it is as quiet as minus 5.2251 decibels as set here in the listening section, right? Now, if I'm moving this to pre-fader listening, what this means is basically, although we have the channel in listening here, the signal that we are going to hear will be 12.2 decibels louder because we are not going through the fader, right? So if I'm playing this back, you hear that the sound change is quite massive, right? So, and if I'm now moving the fader up and down, and maybe also, yeah, try this again, you still hear that if you change between pre-fader and after fader listening, the section that we are looking at gets louder or quieter based on what we set here. So loudness is of course a very subjective level, and a very it's open to change wherever you listen to music. But the thing that I was showing you here is that it also depends on where you load your inserts. So you can load your statistics inserts basically everywhere on your channel, but you have to be sure on what you actually want to measure. So in this case, if I'm having this on post fader, of course I will measure everything that is going on in the channel after it has been through all of these faders. But if I'm moving this to pre-fader, I always have to make sure that the things I'm seeing may actually not be accurate to what the fader is actually telling me, right? So this is a very important concept. So to summarize, if you have your channel, the first things that happen on the channel itself, so what you see in your project window, then you go through the pre-section, through the inserts, pre-fader inserts, then through your fader, and after that you go through the post-fader inserts, and then to the other channels that are present in the direct routing scheme as presented here. And I think this concludes it for today.